Mr. Chairman. So I disagree with the president's disastrous approach to worldwide tariffs. He's causing economic chaos and uncertainty that are hurting workers and working families and small businesses all around this country. If he continues his giant game of on-again, off-again tariffs, he's going to push our country into a recession. Tariff reform is badly needed. The mantra embraced for decades by many Democrats and Republicans alike that free trade with China would somehow work to our favor was flatly wrong. Those policies, combined with China's aggressive trade practices, have cost millions of Americans their jobs. They have also undercut our economic and national security. Beijing is increasingly using its significant leverage over critical supply chains to exert influence around the world while the United States stands by. Now, during the Biden administration, the PRC restricted the export of several critical minerals, gallium, germanium, graphite, antimony, right, in response to U.S. export controls. Now, during the Trump administration, the PRC has cut off access to several more critical minerals. Mr. Doshi, you worked on China policy at the National Security Council, and you have seen the importance of addressing China's leverage over critical supply chains. How important is the Defense Production Act to reshoring those critical chains and competing with China?
Well, thank you, Ranking Member Warren. It is essential. 30 years ago, when China joined the World Trade Organization, the United States was about 30% of global manufacturing value add. Today, we're 17%, and in 5 years, we might be 11%. That's not a great situation. As you mentioned in your opening, the Defense Production Act is critical to expanding American industrial capacity. If we want to reduce dependence on Chinese critical minerals, we need DPA. If we want to produce cruise missiles or ships, we need DPA. If we want to surge production after a supply chain attack, we need DPA as well. I think it's essential right now, with China throttling American industry by going after rare earths and rare earth magnets in the trade war. I think President Trump needs DPA in order to be able to effectively negotiate with the PRC.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. I don't support the president's trade war in the way that he's conducting it, but I do think that the president needs tools like the DPA to be able to stand up to Xi Jinping. We also need a strong DPA to protect our medical supply chains and protect us from persistent shortages of many generic drugs. We can't defend our country if we can't provide life-saving drugs to our service members and to our citizens. According to the Defense Logistics Agency, 27% of the DoD's pharmaceutical supply chains are considered very high risk. That's 1 in every 4, because they are dependent on China or just an unknown source that nobody can figure out. Another 27%, that puts us well over half, is at high risk because they are dependent on non-Trade Agreement Act compliant countries. Mr. Brown, we have become dangerously dependent on foreign countries for pharmaceuticals, including active pharmaceutical ingredients. How should we be using the DPA to onshore drug manufacturing, to address shortages, and to build resilience?
It's a great question, Senator, and this has been an area of bipartisan consensus for many years. Recently, we've been using Title III funding from the DPA to help onshore some of this critical capacity. The current administration, through HHS, is having a hearing and a roundtable this June with industry to further address this issue. And you can imagine how much worse it could get if we were facing a mass casualty scenario here in the homeland. And to be clear, this is not just a foreign sourcing issue. We've had shortages of IV fluid following 2 different hurricanes. First with Hurricane Maria, and then again with Hurricane Helene, affecting manufacturing supply chains here in the United States. And so the DPA is important not just for onshoring, but enhancing the resilience of the supply chain here and abroad.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your expanding out our vision of what we're talking about here. You know, this risk is not theoretical. It can cost American lives. I've introduced multiple bills to try to reinvigorate drug manufacturing here at home, it is clear that we need to use every tool at our disposal to create resilience in these supply chains. I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here and helping us understand the importance of using the DPA to protect national defense. Thank you.